Hello again, class. Mr. Forrester is back. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have another lesson with me, another noun lesson, but we're going to advance it a little forward, right? So what we're going to start off with is we're going to do a little review of the things that you would have had from me from the last lesson, where we learned what a noun was, what a common noun was, what a proper noun was. So I hope you sit back and enjoy. Let's get it started. So what we're going to do is we're going to match the different definitions of the three things that we would have learned last day with each other. So on the following slide, what you're going to have is you're going to have them jumbled up. So you're going to have noun, common noun, proper noun, and you're going to have three different definitions that will go with one of each, but not all of them, and they will not be in the right place. So if you remember what we had learned, then you will be able to put them in the right place and match it up and make sure that what we are learning today does not take away from what we learned last time. So let's go. Right. So we have nouns, we have proper nouns, and we have common nouns. Those are the three things that we would have touched on, and we are going to make sure that we don't forget what we learned when we are learning something new. And now the three definitions. See if you can match which one goes where before I tell it to you on the next slide. So, our general names for nouns, they do not begin with a capital letter unless they start a sentence. So that's one. Does that go for nouns? Does it go for proper nouns? Or does it go for common nouns? Can't go for all three, it's one out of them. Second definition are the names of places, people, places, animals, or things. So again, nouns, proper nouns, or common nouns. You decide. Finally, our special names of nouns. They begin with a capital letter. So, which one would that one go for? So in the next slide, it's going to all be in its proper place. So I'm going to give you a little chance to think about it. And when I switch it, then you will see if you were correct and if you remember what you would have learned before. And if not, I encourage you to do a little revision on your own, or if you can, watch the video again, and hopefully it gives you a little refresher. So take your time, read it through, see if it matches up. Right? So if you're ready, let's go. Right. Now what we have is nouns are the names of people, places, animals, or things. So hopefully you all remember that one and you got this one correct. Next we have proper nouns. And proper nouns are special names of nouns. They begin with a capital letter. So that's like your name or the name of your pet, as we spoke about last day. The last one, common nouns, are general names for nouns. They do not begin with a capital letter unless they start a sentence. So good. Hopefully everything we went through last day has remained in your head and you have found a way to make sure that all of this is still up there. So this little picture is going to be very important very shortly. What I want you to do is take a look and see what the pictures are. I want you to analyze this and the few other ones that you are about to see, because that's going to form the basis for the lesson we are going to teach today. So it seems like we have a grandfather and a grandmother. All right? So we have those two here, and as I said, it's going to be important. So let's go on. So now we have a lion and we have a lioness. So we have these two here, and just like before, see if you can form a link between the pictures, because there is something that has linked them, and that's also very important. So this one was actually one of my favorites. So we have cow and we have a bull. Don't know why the bull is looking that angry, but there he is. So now is the question. Did you notice anything strange? Did you notice anything similar? Is there any link that you can make between the pictures that would have been on the left and the corresponding one on the right? Let's see. So let's see if I was right about what she was. Right. So we have grandmother, and opposing her we have grandfather. I'm not sure why they're looking like they're going to fight, but there it is. Then we have the lioness, as before, and we have the lion on the other side. So again, you still have time. Think and see if you can find a link between these different things. And we have a hopping cow, apparently, and we have the bull. So is there a link? Is there some commonality between what's on the left and what's on the right? Each and every one of those that we would have just talked about would be an example of what you call a gendered noun. And that's what we are going to be focusing on today. So if you would notice, if you would take stock, there were male and female to every different noun that I gave you. Right? So we had grandfather, we had grandmother, we had lion, we had lioness, right? We had cow, and we had bull. Each one had a male, each one had a female. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Right. So now let's list what we're going to be able to do, what are our objectives. So we are going to learn what is a gendered noun. Some of you may have guessed what it was from what we were speaking about. Some of you may know about it from a previous class. But we are still going to touch on it a bit and see if we can't make sure that that knowledge in your head is solid. And we are going to understand and identify the gender classifications, right? So we're going to explain what those are too, and we're going to find ways of using gendered nouns in our own work as well. Good? So the sassy smiley is asking a question. The question that I hope all of you home either have in your head or know is coming, right? So good. So gender, as this definition gives, is the range of characteristics belonging to members of a species used for differentiating between male and female. So you watching this lesson would be either a boy or a girl, right? That would be the gender that you have. So you have either male characteristics or female characteristics. You would have a mother and a father. Again, a female and a male. So you have two different things. The picture that I had put up is one of a lioness and a lion. And if you take a look at these two different looking things, they are the same kind of animal. They are both lions. But one is a female, that is the lioness. One is a male. Can you identify any main difference, any major difference between these two? See if you could take it in. Right. So the lion has this big mane of hair around his neck. And that's how you can identify adult male lions. So that's what they mean when they say some of the characteristics of the gender. So a female lion, a lioness, doesn't have that big thick mane, but the male does. Good? So that's one way of denoting their gender. Right, another good question, Smiley Man. What does gender have to do with noun? Sorry. So, yes, there are nouns that are specific to gender. So those are what we are going to actually be focusing on, right? So some nouns can be separated into groups besides just common and proper, which we would have done last day. They can be masculine, which is male, another word for male, or feminine, which is another word for female. So that is where the noun and gender comes in. There are different sets, and there's another one or two that we will also be touching on and a little later on. Right? So these nouns, male and female nouns, masculine and feminine nouns, are gendered nouns. So we have a few here. We have something like boy, which the feminine version would be girl. We have woman, the male version would be man, right? So you have a female version, a female gender, you have the male gender. So you have mother and daughter, you have father and son, you have grandfather, as we saw before, and you have grandmother, or king, and you have queen. Good? So these are not nearly all that they are. These will be some that you're familiar with. You could have uncle, you could have ant, right? So you have those different things that you can, even if you're not sure, you will actually know about it and you will be more familiar with it than you actually know. So there are many nouns that have masculine and feminine gender, but not all of them. We're going to go through a few. So yes, Smiley is very interested. Right. So good. So what we have here is a male and a female peacock, right? The male is called the peacock, the female is the peahen, and the names go with the pictures. So the ones with the set of feathers, the whole big display, those are the males. And the females are pictured on my right. They are the ones that are more simple and dressed down. So that's how you would know the difference between a male and a female peacock, by those feathers. Similar to the lion and his mane, the male are the ones with the big display. So right, so we have a masculine, which is a stag, and a feminine, which is a doe. And do you know which animal this one would go with? Take a look. Right, so they would both be an example of a deer. So you have a masculine deer, a stag, and a feminine deer, a doe. And again, you see a few differences between what they look like. The male stag has these antlers that go up, and the female doesn't. She's more small and reserved. So that's one of the major differences between them. Right. Now we have an example of one that doesn't really have much differences that you can see, but there are still names that go with both male and female. So we have here an example of a horse, right? So a male horse is called a stallion, and a female horse is called a mare. So you have these two, both examples of horses that may even look the same, but their gender is actually different. Good? And then we have a king and we have a queen. Added on to that, you would have something like a prince and a princess, right? Or a duchess and a duke. You have these different things that all have different genders to go with them, even though the roles of the things may be similar or the species may be the same. They have different classifications for the males and for the females. Now we have the boar and the sow, and the animal that they would both go with would be a pig, right? So good. So we have all of these different things to show you that sometimes there are differences between the male and the female, and sometimes it's just a matter of giving the different members of the different genders different names, like with the horse. Good. So what I want you to do now is we are going to draw on your own knowledge, and we are going to write the opposite of what we have. So each sentence has one word that is in blue. That word in blue would be either masculine or feminine. What you have to do now is think about what the opposite of that would be, what the other gender would be. So if I give you masculine, you have to give me feminine. If I give you feminine, you have to give me masculine. So let's see if we can do that. Right, so number one. The king and the are having dinner in the castle. So I want you to think about what the other version of king would be. Think about that one. Right. I am going to visit my aunt and this July. Again, think about it. My mother and raise horses. They have one stallion and one. Think. And lastly, I want to be an actress, and my brother wants to be an. Good. So take your time and draw from what you would have known before and what we would have done earlier in this lesson, and see if you can fill in the blanks. Feel free to write it on a piece of paper or keep it in your head, or if you and your sibling might be doing the lesson together, see if you all have gotten the same answers, right? So let's go through them one by one. Good. So we have the king and the queen are having dinner in the castle. So hopefully all of you would have remembered from a previous slide that you have king, and the feminine version of king would be queen. Good. Number 2, I'm going to visit my aunt and uncle this July. So the sentence would have been complete with uncle, because the feminine version would be aunt, and the masculine version of the word aunt would be uncle. Good. So this one was one where we had 2 to do. So we had my mother and father raise horses. Good. They have 1 stallion and 1 mare. Good. So hopefully you all remembered what those words are. If they are new to you, then you can learn them. If they are not, then hopefully you remembered them. And lastly, I want to be an actress, and my brother wants to be an actor. So you have actress being the feminine version, the female version, and actor being the male or masculine version. So you have all of these different things, all of these different ones, and these are just the few that I decided to put here, right? We can't necessarily list all of them, so what I will want you all to do is, after the lesson is done, to go for yourself and try to learn a few of the different masculine and feminine versions. Write a few sentences with it. Give it to your parents or your teachers to correct. Make sure that you know the difference between them, because it's important to know. Right? Another good question from the inquisitive smiley face. Do all nouns have a male and female version? And the simple answer for that is nope. So not every noun that you come across has a masculine and a feminine version. There are some nouns that can work for both. Something like parent. A noun like, let's take the word parent. So if you say I'm going to call your parent, then it can be you're going to call your mother, or it can also be they're going to call your father, right? So parent is a noun that can work for either or both, right? Then you have, again, father, mother, works for either masculine or feminine. So it's not every single noun that has a different version. Not every noun falls into either male or female. Some work for both, and as we will learn in a little while, some actually works for things with no gender whatsoever. Right? So, some nouns have no gender whatsoever, and other nouns can refer to female and male. Taking the example of parent, or relative, or friend. You can have a male friend or a female friend, right? So they both work with the same word in that instance. Right? So nouns that can be used for either gender are classified as common nouns or common gender. Right? So again, taking the same example of parent. Parent is an example of a noun with a common gender that can be used for either or both. Good? So we have doctor, teacher, professional, journalist, elephant, and relative. A doctor can be male or female. A teacher can be male or female. If you're a professional, you can be male or female. Journalist, elephant, relative, same thing. Good? So this is part of the common gender, the common noun. Right? And here we are going to start what I was talking about before, where there are some nouns for things that have no gender whatsoever, right? So we have masculine, feminine, both, and we have neither. So in this case, we have things like objects. Objects won't have a gender, so you don't have a male pen or a female pen, right? You don't have a book that is a girl, or a dictionary that is definitely a boy. They are objects, they don't have any particular gender, right? And for those kinds of nouns, we have a special name for them as well. So far, we have masculine for male, feminine for female, common for either or both, and for none whatsoever, we have neuter. So that may be a new word for some of you, so if you don't mind, write it down, make sure you have it. So we have neuter nouns, nouns with no gender whatsoever. The name of things. So we have table, we have desk, we have chair, pencil, pen, ruler, things that you would come across with, the desk, the blackboard, the whiteboard, even the marker that your teacher might use. All of these things are neuter nouns because they will have no gender. You may decide to pretend that your blackboard is male or female, but that's not going to mean that it's actually male or female. Good? So we have neuter nouns there. Some nice examples. For Eureka, we have a chair and we have a car. All of these are genderless. They are all objects, they are all things. None of them have one particular gender that you can assign for them. You may name your car a male or female name, but again, it's just a car. Good. So that's neuter nouns there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over from the start what we spoke about, and we're going to see what it is we learned and in the previous lesson and in this one a little quickly. So nouns. Nouns themselves are good naming words. They can name what kinds of things? Persons, right? Places, animals, and things. Good. So we have those different things. What different types of nouns did we learn last day? Let's focus on last day first. So we have common nouns, good, and we have proper nouns. See if you can remember which kind begins with a capital letter. Is it common nouns? Is it proper nouns? Or do they both begin with a capital letter always? Good. Proper nouns always capitalize the first letter, regardless. Very nice. So we have common nouns. Generic names, specific names. Common. Which one? Good. So common nouns would be the generic, and proper nouns would be the specific names for the different things. So good. Always keep what you have already learned in the back of your mind because it helps. You build on what you learned before. So good. And for this lesson now, let's talk about what we learned today and see what we can link. Nouns can sometimes be gendered. We already learned what gendered means. We know that it means that it has different characteristics for the male and different ones for the female. Good? So in that case, it's called a gendered noun, masculine or feminine. And a good way to remember which is which, masculine, M, male, feminine, F, female. So the first letter is the same for both of them. So if you're having problems remembering, just think about that. Good? So it can be male or female. Right? Masculine, feminine. And common. So that's the one like parent or relative that can be used for either or both. And other nouns, some nouns, have no gender whatsoever. Right? They are just objects and they are just things. So that's where we were talking about the car and the eraser and that kind of stuff. So, right, good. These are called neuter nouns. And again, it's important to remember the difference between all of these different types of nouns and not to mix them up. Good? So I want you to think to yourself, I want you to think about being able to use the different kinds. So if I were to give you a sentence like, the something is going to the mall, right? Would you put the James is going to the mall? That is a place for a proper noun? No. Would you put the girls are going to the mall or the boys are going to the mall? That will work a little better. The difference between them and how they are used depends on how you are writing, right? Or what you are reading. The differences in the gender, just like the differences between the common and the proper, is important to denote. There's a boy here, there's a girl here, and you have to pick one or the other. And your teacher tells you, make sure and pick a girl this time. Then you know you have to pick the girl, right? You're not going to pick the boy when you were just instructed on which one to pick. If you did not know the difference, then it will become a little confusing for you, right? So, masculine, again, refers to the names of boys and men, father, son, priest, uncle. right? We have rooster, host, king, or hero. Good? So all of those are masculine nouns. We have feminine, refers to girls and to women. Aunt, mother, maiden, grandma, hen, goose, nun, niece. All of those are examples of feminine nouns. We have common nouns, both boys and girls, both girls and boys. We have doctor, nurse, visitor, friend, cousin, manager, relative, singer. All common, all refers to both. And then we have neuter, with nothing, for things or for objects. Eraser, shoes, chocolate, car, desk, bus, book, pants. All neuter, all things, all nothing. Just like this one. Masculine, boy, feminine, girl, neuter, car. Now you can build your own little table, and you can have the nouns separated with the ones that you know. So you could have a table for masculine, a column for masculine, sorry, a column for feminine, one for neuter, and fill it up for yourself and see how many you can list without error. So you have man, woman, table. Now, of course, you know, a man and a woman is not just a gendered version of a table, right? It's just a table is just an example of a neuter noun here. Father and son, mother and daughter, and boat, right? Grandfather, grandmother, and a tree. King, queen, and a house. So all of these here are good examples and ones that you can keep in your mind, that you can use, that you can learn more about in future. Once again, feel free to visit the ministry website for more. I hope you had fun, had a very good day, and goodbye.